What's going on, all you gamers? Today we're jumping back into a bit more Hogwarts Legacy, and I'm going to be bringing you what I believe is probably the best overall level 40 endgame build you can make. So if you want to be truly powerful, have a lot of fun with your game, and be very flexible, allowing you to do a lot with your build, then stay tuned. That's coming up next. Welcome back everyone. Today we're jumping back into some Hogwarts Legacy. This game has been an absolute blast and there's a lot about it that is absolutely amazing. However, hitting 40 can be a bit of a nightmare, and after I did, I wanted to spend a couple of days trying to work out perfect builds and such. As a content creator, sometimes certain games can be a bit of a nightmare to deal with, and anytime you can't respec, that makes things much harder for any game that's got builds in it. This was definitely one such game, and as such, seeing as I wanted to make some really nice builds at the end and know exactly what I was doing, I had to make it all the way through the game without using any of my talent points. So here you can see me at level 40, and the only talent point I'd actually invested in my entire playthrough was one singular point into Spell Knowledge 1, because I believe you probably can't get away without using that. You have to have at least an additional spell set, because otherwise the game is very hard to manage with. So this build is what I've put together that I think probably works the best and a great one to work towards, and would have been great for me to know early game. So what I'm going to do is show you a little bit of combat footage, and then I'll go into the full build guide and explain exactly why you want it in this style. Right, so hopefully from that you can see that this has a lot of potential, it's a lot of fun to play, it does an awful lot of damage, and you can kind of do a bit of everything, so you can adjust it to your playstyle. So if I quickly get the gear out of the way, remember in this game, when you're hitting that maxed level, the only thing you're going to really be worried about if you want perfect gear is going to be legendary, it's going to be 40, and then you're going to want it to have 114. If it's offensive, you're going to want it to have 114 offense. If it's defensive, you're going to want the complete opposite to this, and you're going to want 114 on it. Because I've only got 107 defense and 109 defense, that's why my stats overall over here are 450 for offense, 4k health, but I'm missing just the 12 points there on the defense, because I've lost it out on these two. So if you want a perfect build, look for those 114 pieces of gear. Remember, I have got a guide just in case anyone struggles with that, but yeah, you can use any legendary gear, make sure it's got those max stats, doesn't matter what the gear looks like, because you can always change its cosmetic appearance to what you like. Now the great thing about this build, the way I've put it together, like I said, it allows for a lot of flexibility. We're going over to our loom, and all of the pieces I have on are fully upgraded. You're going to want a lot of resources in order to fully upgrade them, and you can upgrade each piece of gear 3 times. For example, if I went to this one, then I'm going to start upgrading, and it's going to take more resources each time. Next up for the traits, I would say try to stack them as much as possible, works in your best interest, and after playing for quite some time I'd say there's 3 that work out a little bit better than the rest. Unforgivable 3, this is probably one of the most overpowered things in the game and you'll have a lot of fun with it. Curses aren't your style and you prefer to get your damage from your normal spells, then Concentration 3 is probably the way to go, so stack 6 of these on your build. That's going to significantly increase damage to all of your damage spells. Lastly, if you think you're fine with the damage from your spells, and instead you want to spec straight into your herbology and do a lot of damage with your plants, which is an absolute abundance of fun and just destroys everything, then herbology 3 is going to be the way to go. This is going to significantly increase the damage by all of your plants. So jumping over to the skill tree, and I've actually done this a few times over in order to make sure I had the perfect build. This, I believe, is the exact setup that most people should be using if they want to be able to choose a lot of different options, have a lot of versatility, and just be able to dish out a lot of damage as well as having a great playstyle. 9 in your spells, 8 in your dark arts, 12 in your core, 0 in stealth, and 7 in your room of requirement allows you to do almost everything in the game. So jumping into the spells, and we're going to kick it off with a really nice easy one to pick up, and it's going to be Levioso Mastery. This one's great to have, it's really good for multi-target, and it's an easy one to use, so chuck it on. Over from here, and we have Accio Mastery. This I found is great to use, especially if you're linking it up with certain moves, such as your Incendio, as you're going to do a great deal of damage around yourself. Speaking of Incendio, now you've got the Mastery, it's close range but with a nice AoE effect. Works hand in hand with the Mastery we said before. Up from here, and Diffindo Mastery, a great one to have. Doesn't always come off because it is one that actually goes in a line. As you can see, the cast now slices through your impacted targets to strike additional targets. It's great to have, obviously Diffindo does a lot of damage, so it's well worth putting on, but is one you may have to line up in order to get the most potential from it. The one that I've not put on is going to be Depulso Mastery. I found out of all of them, this was the one I could definitely live without. Very situational, doesn't do any damage, and again, close range, so you can quite easily not pick this one up. Over from here, Confringo Mastery. Just one of the better masteries, pick it up, you can't go wrong, great for in theory, it multi-targets. Now you can see that after the impact it's going to produce fiery bolts that are going to seek enemy targets. Well worth having, and is a big improvement on the original spell. Up from here, Glacius Mastery, striking an enemy frozen by Glacius, blast damaging shards outwards. Not the highest damage, but I think because of how good Glacius actually is and how often you'll be using it, this is well worth doing just for a bit of multi-target purpose. Over from here, one that you'll definitely want, Descendo is just a really good one, especially if you're linking it up with Levioso. A Descendo Slam creates a damaging shockwave around your target. Big numbers come up with this, it's a lot of fun to see, make sure you pick this one up. Bombarda, definitely worth using, definitely worth having the Mastery, probably one of the best spells and easiest spells in the game to use. Pick this one up, it's now going to mean it's an even bigger explosive blast with a massive area of effect. And lastly, Transformation Magic, this one is well worth having. The Mastery of this now means that your enemies turn into explosive barrels and you can pick them up and absolutely decimate your foes with an area effect. Very good to see, a little bit bugged at the moment as well, as you can use it as a kind of second Avera Kedavra, because when you're using this with linked targets with curses, it also counts as a one-shot, so it can work great if Avera Kedavra is on cooldown. Over to the Dark Arts, and one of the very best talents in the game is going to be Blood Curse. Dealing damage to a cursed target inflicts damage to all cursed targets. There's going to be ways to link things together in this, you're definitely going to want this on, as it's going to make things much more viable for clearing those groups of ads. Over from here, and you've got Stunning Curse. Now your Stupefier is going to put a curse on enemies when it hits them. Put this on, it's going to make things easier, and again obviously curses makes things get hit harder, and you'll be able to link things, doing a lot of additional damage. I have completely left off these two. I think Disarming Curse and Slowing Curse, a little bit situational. I found that I could quite easily live without these, so I've gone straight over to this one right here, as even though Flipendo is not anywhere near the top end of the best spells, being able to put a curse on a full spell did actually work out quite well in some situations. so out of all of them I would pick this just in case you need it. Up from here, and we've got Enduring Curse. Definitely pick this up. A cursed enemy is now going to be cursed for a longer duration. Most of the time you're going to be taking them out well before this ends. Up again, and we have Imperio Mastery. An enemy under your control with Imperio curses other targets with each successful strike. Fun to see, works amazing, links everything together, and just having a minion on your side can be a lot of fun to see, especially if it's one of the larger ones like the Trolls. Over from here, a complete must-have in my opinion, Crucio Mastery. Striking an enemy cursed by Crucio is now going to release projectiles that curse nearby enemies. You can link things together, you're now going to do damage to everything. Pick this up, this is one of the very best talent points you can have in the game. And works hand in hand with this, Avada Kedavra. The mastery of this is ridiculous. Killing an enemy with Avada Kedavra now kills all cursed enemies. Link things together, one shot everything, complete room clearer, or just a big baddie nuker in general. And finally we have Cursed Sapper. Defeating a cursed enemy is going to restore some of your health. Chucking all these talent points on means you'll have great multi-target, single target damage, and you'll have some health regen, so you can't go wrong. Now over to our core, and after an abundance of testing I found this the ideal setup. First off, you're going to pick up Spell Knowledge 1, 2 and 3. This is going to allow you 4 spell sets. You don't have to use them, but it is a great idea to have that option, as then you'll be able to put all of your utility, all of your extra spells, anything you want, and you're going to have all 4 sets. Just down from here, you're going to want a bigger evade. Swift is going to sort that out. Now rather than that little dodge, if you want to and you want to get into a better position, or you just want to make a fast exit, then this is going to relocate you with that awesome dash. Just down from here, and Ancient Magic Throw Expertise. You may not use this, but it's great to have it in your arsenal. Ancient Magic Throw catches and throws disarm enemy weapons. Now if someone's got a weapon, you can pick it off them with the spell Expelliarmus and throw it straight back at them, doing quite a nice bit of damage in the process. Up from here, and we've got Protego Absorption. This is going to mean now that if you do a nice Protego block or a perfect Protego block, it's going to give you a nice amount of Ancient Magic meter. Over from here, one you'll definitely want on, Basic Cast Mastery. Now whenever you're doing those standard attacks, it's going to reduce the spell cooldown a little bit, and you'll definitely be using these standard attacks in amongst your normal spell combos, so this is one that's ideal to pick up. Now that 3 that I found I could quite easily leave off, Basic Cast Airborne Absorption. This one is one you'd have to very much spec into. You get a bit of extra Ancient Magic meter as long as you're hitting those enemies in the air. If you are speccing into this entirely, it might work. You'd probably have to use the traits as well. Ultimately this one's quite easy to leave off. Down from here, Revelio Mastery. If you wanted this on, you could put it on, but it is definitely not one that's essential, and I found I'd rather have it in other places. And just over here, Stupefy Mastery, we just don't need it. It is nice, but ultimately you're trying to take things out as fast as you can, and especially at level 40 you hit so hard that most times this doesn't really matter. Going on to the ones we have picked up, and we've gone back to Protego Expertise. Blocking a spell with Perfect Protego will send 2 projectiles back at their enemies. Really nice to have in your arsenal. You won't always be doing this, but it is a great one to have. Over from here, Evasion Absorption. Successfully evading an unblockable attack with dodge contributes to the Ancient Magic meter. You won't notice this happening, but it will be happening constantly, and it's great to be able to get a bit more Ancient Magic meter without really speccing much into it. Over from here, these 2 I tested them out. They give you exactly the same amount. It's well worth having, because with one of these on, it means if you do need that emergency heal, you're going to get around double the health you would have got if you haven't got this on. Without it, it can mean you need to use about 3 potions. With it, you're only going to need 2 to completely fill up your bar. And bopping all the way up to the level 22 top ones, Protego Mastery. If you manage to pull this off, it means you're going to do a nice damaging blast around yourself, and it's going to break everyone's shields. So again, it's just a great one to have in your kit. And lastly, just over here, Stupefy Expertise. Stupefy deals direct damage on impact. You're going to be using this, you're going to be stupefying enemies, you might as well get a bit of additional damage in the process. All of this is going to give you a really nice well-rounded setup that can kind of tackle anything in the game. Now over to our stealth tree, and unfortunately something has to give. There's only 36 talent points for you to spend in the game once you hit that maximum level of 40, but there are 48 talent points for you to spec into, so you will have to miss out on 12. I found stealth was the easiest to not spec into at all because you don't 100% need it. Honestly, having this top one would be a lot of fun. I tested it out, it is good, not essential, and I didn't use it anywhere near as much as I probably should have, because most times you're going in with your spell combos and such. So this, I found whole tree easy to leave alone. Whereas the complete opposite to that is going to be your Room of Requirement, my favourite tree in the game, ridiculously overpowered, boosts your build overall massively, and it's a lot of fun to play. The first one, Edorous Potion Potency. Now when you pop that potion, it's going to make you completely invincible whilst the potion lasts. Definitely worth having, could be very fun to combo up with a few of the other potions which we'll go over later. My favourite skill point in the game, Fertilizer. Now you chuck out 2 chomping cabbages. Without speccing into this, without putting any herbology on, they are still absolute beasts. Very powerful, great to see, and tackles a lot of the enemies. With herbology on, these absolutely nuke bosses, anything you're taking on, and is one of the strongest things in the game. Straight up from here, and we have a nice AoE, and that's going to be with your mandrakes. Now the damaging and duration of the mandrakes is going to be increased. Nice little AoE, gives a little stun, and means you can take things out very easily. Over from here, Maximum Potion, nah, absolutely ridiculous, does a massive amount of damage and breaks shields. If you want to combo that up with the Edorous down here, or if you want to use any of them in conjunction, they'll do a ridiculous amount of damage or bring something to your build that's well worth having. Such as the Thunder Brew Potency, I thought this would be one I would completely leave off. After using it, it is just so good. Nice bit of AoE, isn't the highest damage, but it does do a fair chunk of damage, but even more so than that, it breaks enemy shields. Every time that lightning comes down on them, breaks their shields, makes your battles very easy. And up from here, Focus Potion Potency. If you have a high damage spell build, and you pop this, and you pop an Edorous Potion, nothing will survive. You'll be able to rotate through all your spells. As long as they're on the same spell set, you're going to have your cooldown going ridiculous, spam away, and take out all those enemies easy. And finally, just over from here, your Noxious. Now your Venomous Tentacular is going to break shields as well. Ridiculously good, does a little bit of extra damage, but this whole tree just enhances your build, and I would say is probably some of the strongest talent points in the game currently. Jumping over to the spell sets, and I've tried to put some things together that cover all the bases and are easy to use. But remember, you've got pretty much all the masteries, so if you want to swap things around and have a little change up, that's very much up to you, and there's a lot of combos that will definitely work. I've chucked on Crucio as our first one. That's going to be nice and easy. It's going to allow you to curse all of your enemies, hit the cursed target with standard attacks in order to make all of the others cursed around him, then they'll be linked up and you can do a lot of damage to all of them. Glacius, again, just a great one to use, makes your spells follow up with extra damage. And of course with the mastery, it's going to do that break effect as well. Across from it, we've got Defindo, just a cool looking spell and one of the top end for damage, just under Incendio. So this is going to work perfect after you've already cursed them and you've used that Glacius. And just underneath it, we've got Confringo. Now you've got a way of dealing with anything that needs to be set on fire, like the Inferi, and it's also going to do a little bit of multi-target as well, because of its mastery. For the second spell set, we've kicked it off with this right here, Accio. I like being able to pull things towards myself and then combo it straight up with the other one we've got on, which is our Incendio. This is a very close range one. It can be a little bit hit and miss, but the damage is exceptional. I find it's just amazing and takes out groups of enemies very easy. Another good one is going to be Levioso. That way you're going to bop things straight in the air, you're going to be grabbing a few of them, and then you're going to hit them straight with a Bombarda, doing a nice bit of AoE and pretty much clearing the targets most times. Remember, this is just a guide. If you wanted to swap out the Accio just over here and swap it for something like a Descendo so that you can bop everything into the air and then slam them down on the ground, that works amazing as well. But I found overall this worked the best, because later on you don't really need to cycle through 4 spells, 1 or 2 usually does the job. Over to our big boy Dark Arts tree, and we've got Crucio. Obviously we're going to have this on a completely dedicated Dark Arts tree, as it's probably the linchpin. You're going to use this is going to enable you to curse a lot of enemies, go into your standard attack afterwards, and spread those curses around. Imperio, great to have on your bar, Make sure you're picking out the biggest, toughest enemy there is, putting them on your side. They're going to go around devastating the enemy for you, and then after it wears off, probably everything's going to be decimated and you just got to take them out. Or a lot of times you can actually beat them with Petrificus Totalis anyway. The biggest hitting thing in the game, Avada Kedavra. Use this on a single target as long as you can use it. It doesn't apply to all bosses, but as long as you can, it's going to nuke whatever's in front of you, and if it's chained up with curses, then everything's going to fall over. Lastly, like I said, don't know if it's intended, but currently transformation magic also kind of counts as a second Avada Kedavra, so chuck this on your bar. If Avada Kedavra's down, you should be able to use this, and as long as everything's linked to it in curses, once you pick it up and explode that barrel, everything's going to fall over, providing you with another one-shot mechanic. Last but definitely not least, put your utility all on one bar, so your Disillusionment, your Lumos, your Apero, and your Wingardium Levioso, and that should mean you've got everything covered except for your Room of Requirement and your Beast Feeding, which you'll just swap onto this bar whenever you want to do it. Right, no doubt that's taken about double the amount of time as I intended, but it should be quite in depth and allow you to know exactly what to do with your build and hopefully how to set up your room. As always, for All Things Gaming, take care. I'll see you on next day.